you don't know by now what this show is called, then really what are you doing here? It's Rulings with Auke, the best intro in the world. Today we are looking at Metaion, the Timelord, and more specifically one of its effects, which I've very handily put right here in the box, and it actually fits, so the people in the watch chat were able to read it as well. This part of the effect, at the end of the battle phase, if this card attacked or was attacked, return all other monsters on the field to the hand, and inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each card returned. Now, the question is, it's clear that a regular monster, such as Blue Eyes White Dragon, will be returned to the hand, 300 damage for that. But the question is, how does that work with extra deck monsters like Gaia Knight, the Force of Earth, tokens, like the ones summoned by Stray Lambs, and trap monsters? So that is the question. Metaion, the Timelord. When it attacks, it's not destroyed by battle, it does not take any battle damage. I can freely attack and Metaion will survive due to its other effect. Now the question to you, viewers, is, before I explain the ruling, if I attack with Metaion, and then the effect that is in the chat activates at the end of the battle phase, where do all the cards go? And how much damage, this is the important question, how much damage is dealt to Neton? I'll give you a few seconds to think about that. Alright, to see how much damage is dealt, let's just look at the effect very carefully. At the end of the battle phase, if this card attacked or was attacked, that's the activation requirement shown by the colon. This card has problem-solving card text, so the colon does show that it's the attack, the activation requirement. So it needs to attack or it needs to have been attacked. So we'll just attack, let's say we attack Gaia, it doesn't really matter, because as you can see here, this card cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects, so it's not destroyed by battle, and I don't take any battle damage either because it's in face of attack position. So I've attacked. Let's say I now end the battle phase, so then we've met the activation requirement. Return all other monsters on the field to the hand, and inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each card returned. So, this is the thing. Zoma the Spirit is a monster, but originally it was just a trap card. So does it actually count? Because it says return all other monsters on the field to the hand. Yes, Zoma the Spirit does make Neton take damage. Why? The monsters are sent back. Before it's sent back, it is a monster. It's right here on the field. So Zoma the Spirit is sent back to the hand. Now I'm just doing them separately to explain it, otherwise it's all simultaneous. But Zoma the Spirit is sent back, and 300 damage is dealt for that. Because it's a monster on the field, it may still be a trap at the same time, but it is a monster on the field as well. It is returned, and then it says inflict 300 damage for each card returned. And Zoma the Spirit is most definitely a card. So 300 damage for Zoma. Next up, we look at the tokens. Return all other monsters on the field to the hand. Tokens are definitely monsters. Normal monsters to be exact, although that doesn't really matter in this scenario. Do the tokens make Neton take damage? No. Reason being, tokens cannot exist anywhere but on the field. They are monsters, so they are attempted to be sent back to the hand. However, as soon as they leave the field, the tokens disappear into nothingness, so to speak. They never actually move towards the hand. Therefore, no damage is taken for the tokens. If you understand this, then I will just resume. If you do not understand this after Gaia, I will give another sort of way to explain it if you don't understand it yet. Now Gaia. Once again, it's a monster. Yeah, sure, so it will be returned. However, Gaia cannot be returned to the hand, because it's an extra deck monster. extra deck monsters cannot exist in the hand. So what happens with Gaia? Gaia is sent back to the extra deck instead. Same thing if like compulsory evacuation devices is used on it. Gaia returns to the extra deck, as with all extra deck monsters. Now the question is, does Metaion deal damage? Because it says return all other monsters on the field to the hand, and inflict 300 damage for each card returned. Sure, Metaion's this part of the effect attempted to send all monsters back to the hand. Zoma was sent back to the hand. The tokens were attempted to, but didn't work because they disappeared after they left the field. What about Gaia? It was sent somewhere, but it wasn't to the hand. It was to the extra deck. However, Metaion does take damage for Gaia being sent, because Metaion does technically send it to the hand, and it does move Gaia from the field to another location. It's due to Gaia's rulings, or more specifically the extra deck monster's rulings, that it moves to the extra deck instead of the hand. However, it does move from one location to the other, in this case from field to extra deck. And Metaion says, and inflict 300 damage for each card returned. It doesn't say inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each card returned to the hand. If it would have said for each card returned to the hand, then only 300 damage would have been inflicted due to only Zoma reaching the hand. The tokens never actually move anywhere, so they cannot return anywhere, so they don't make you take damage. Gaia does return somewhere. So for Gaia, Metaion does take 300 points of damage. Now, this is the end of the rulings video. So I'm going to try, for those that don't understand the stray lambs thing yet, because I did get a question on that before, to go a bit more into detail about that. If you already understand everything, then you can just leave the video now, because this is technically a chance that I'll just make it more confusing for you again. Although this really shouldn't, because I'm hoping that it's not confusing. If it ends up being really confusing, even for me or for a lot of people in the comments, then I'll just post an annotation right here, or even just before this, that this next part is confusing, that you shouldn't listen to it. Alright, so what I'm going to compare these cards to is just like, you have to look at it as a physical object, the card itself. And the card needs to be moved for Metaion to do the effect. It says returned, and technically the tokens don't come from anywhere. So in that sense, the grammar thing wouldn't really work, but let's not look at that. The part returned shows that the card needs to actually move from one location to another. So if we just put the cards back on the field, so Monster Zone, we've got our 2 tokens, we got Gaia. Now, you have to look at these cards as like the physical thing, the card itself. It needs to be moved from one location to the other. Right now they are on the field, and you can see them as being stuck to the field, like with some kind of glue. But Metaion's effect is something that moves them away from that, so something that would deactivate that glue. I know, this is weird, how I'm explaining this, but I'm trying to do it in a different way for those that still don't understand it. Metaion deactivates the glue on Zoma and tries to move it. Is it moved? Yes. It is lifted from the field, moves to the hand, it is moved, damage dealt because it's moved. Same for Gaia. Glue deactivated, it is moved from one location to the other, in this case from the field to extra deck. Tokens, however, remember the ruling on tokens, they cannot exist anywhere except for on the field. They are currently glued to the field, however, due to Metaion's effect, they are lifted from the field. But as soon as they lose their connection with the field, the tokens are gone. Their magic beings disappear when they're not glued to the field anymore. Therefore, they disappear into thin air, they cannot be moved to any location, so therefore, no damage from Metaion. So, congrats to those who got it right. 600 damage. Regular monsters like Blue Eyes White Dragon naturally work. Trap monsters, yes, damage is dealt for them. Extra deck monsters, yes, damage is dealt for them. Tokens, no, because tokens are the only ones that cannot move to, well, the hand or extra deck. They aren't moved anywhere because they actually disappear as soon as they leave the field. That was Ruling's video. I hope you learned something from this. If you have any further questions regarding this matter, please just post them in the comments. You can technically PM me on YouTube as well, although I'd prefer it if you just post a comment due to the fact that some others may also have the same question, and then they could just read in the comments, and then they don't need to ask the question because it's already in the comments and I've already answered and explained it. So I hope you learned something from this. If you have any suggestions on what Ruling's video to do next, let me know in the comments. I already have a good list from a good amount of people in DNF from ones to do next, some really good ones, so I'll have a good stash for the upcoming weeks and things. So I can always look back at that when I want to make a new Rulings video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.